what is something that you just would love to see them just hit the nail on the head on this scene or this moment or this part of the film? It could be a design, casting concept. It could be a story moment, just something that maybe you haven't even seen done just that well in any of the Narnia movies before.
Well, one of the things I think I had on my list, I guess I've kind of already covered a little bit, but I had just really sell the emotion of the despair and then the hope. Take time to really spend time on what a dark place Narnia is in right now. Don't just say, oh yeah, by the way, their king's going to die without an heir. Let's really take the time to feel that. Let's slow the story down and not just rush through it. Then let's take time, kind of what Fantasia Kitty wrote in her opinion piece. Let's take time to enjoy it when Rilian is restored back to Caspian, even if it's just for a brief moment. And there's, sorry. Well, okay. So when you actually get back to Caspian, take time to feel that and feel the joy. Don't just say, okay, the story's over. We can roll credits and get out of here. But maybe if we can, I don't know if we actually have to have the snow dance with the fawns or not. But let's take time to enjoy the joy that Narnia feels that the prince has come back. Let's not just end the story. Oh, okay, the story's over. So take time on the despair and let us really feel the joy when Narnia is restored. I felt that the Prince Caspian movie, its strongest point is it did a pretty good job on the sadness and the longing for the fact that old Narnia is gone and if I wish it could be the way it used to be. But they didn't, to me, deliver on the joy when it finally did come back. It was kind of like, okay, they had a military victory and they pulled out their swords and they beat them all. Okay, but I didn't have the excitement of yay, the old days are back, like you do in the book with Bacchus and Silenus and the trees coming back and everything. So that would be my number one constructive criticism, hope the thing that they would do for the movie. I think.
Yeah, like. To be honest, like it's so hard for me to think of like a specific thing that I'm really hoping to see because, to be perfectly honest, it's still so hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that this movie is actually happening. Like
we don't have a release date yet. In fairness,
like after Dawn Treader came out, like that whole like just seeing how it didn't work out the way it was supposed to, and the whole franchise just kind of died off. Like I genuinely thought, well, there's that. Like I'm not going to see any more Narnia movies in my lifetime until maybe 20, 30 years from now when they reboot it. Because this is what Hollywood does. Like, yep. I still feel like I will see a reboot.
Or 2 years with Spider-Man.
Yeah. Spider-Man is the eternal reboot. But I do still feel like I will see a reboot of Narnia in my lifetime. Probably my later lifetime, but so for me to be like, oh, they're not rebooting.
Well, this is kind of a reboot.
It is, but they're not.
Can't get too much into what that what the word reboot means.
But they're not starting over from the beginning. They are starting. It is the Silver Chair. It's one we haven't seen on the big screen yet. So I'm still sort of in this state of like extreme skepticism that like
you let that old franchise go.
Happening?
You'd let it go. You'd made your peace.
And
now it's back.
And now it's back, and I don't know how I feel about it because it's not the same franchise. Like, I mean, it's obviously it's Narnia, but they're not with any of the previous companies.
Care Paravel could look completely different.
Exactly.
It was rebuilt anyway.
Yeah.
Care Paravel was rebuilt after we last saw it. So,
but it's like
they could just kind of throw away the old continuity, and anyway, we've talked about that.
And like, I don't even know, like, do they even have the rights to the logo? Like, is the logo even going to look the same? Just
Joe Johnston emphasized, like when he was asked about the cast and said, well, Will Poulter's too old, but he also said, but more than that, I want this to have a unique look and feel. So I think he doesn't want you to be thinking about this as movie 4. I think they kind of want you to think of it as movie 1.
Yeah, which I don't know how I feel about that, just being like it's Silver Chair. I don't know how much, to me, that doesn't really feel like the start of anything. It really does feel like more of like a middle.
See, I think it does feel like I
think you can make it into it.
You have Jill, a new character. She's never been to Narnia before. She doesn't know who, from her perspective, the mystery of who is Eustace is kind of interesting. All we know is he's a very different boy now than he used to be.
But like, I feel like if you don't have that background of Eustace,
I think
makes getting into his character a lot more difficult.
See, but I think Silverchair focuses so much on Jill, and I like the idea of, I think if I hadn't read any of the other books, that would be an intriguing hook. That, okay, all we know about this mysterious boy is he's really different than he was a year ago. Jill talks about that. And he claims to have been from another world. That's all we know. And then, of course, we find out, he was telling the truth. To me, that's an intriguing hook for a story. And we would see Jill, or Aslan, from Jill's perspective. Like, we don't know Aslan, if Aslan's going to eat her or not from her perspective.
Yeah,
so I
that's
think
true.
Silver Chair can actually be a really, I said in the previous podcast, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is the best start for the series, the way to get introduced to it.
Yeah.
But my second choice, if it's not Wardrobe, would not be Magician's Nephew. It would be The Silver Chair. I think that's a better book one than Magician's Nephew.
So I guess when I say like what am I like excited, what I'm hoping to see, like I'm still just like just excited to just see it. Like I just hope I hope it can keep the tone of the book. You know, it's like I said before, like don't like make it into this like actiony thing. Like that was one of my big problems with Dawn Treader's. Like Dawn Treader's an adventure story. It's not this epic quest of life or death. Like it's an adventure. You know, we're exploring Narnia and we're seeing all these
having the green mist conflict was
it just
fundamentally different.
Yeah, it was so different. And so for me, I hope for Silver Chair that it can keep that. It's like what you said, like that. It's like that feeling of just like hopelessness and like what are we doing? Like this is just like we've just been given these instructions and nothing else to go on. It's just kind of like this slow thing, and then the picture becomes a little bit clearer and a little bit more clear, and then at the end there's just this massive payoff where you just realize
the payoff. That's what they've been missing from the other movies.
Yeah, so it's like this is what the goal was. We just didn't know it at the time.
I like what you're saying because that kind of ties into really. I have two that came to mind. One is just thinking about the payoff and where Narnia is at the beginning, and the scene where Caspian's resurrected is such a memorable scene.
Could easily get cut out.
Get cut out. And here's the other difficulty with it. You deal with multiple endings, and that's a common problem. It's a hard thing to deal with in films. You know, Return of the King had to have those multiple endings, but it struggled with it. Criticized for it. People weren't sure when the movie ended. It was just, and it's a very hard thing to do. And that's something here. You have the spoiler alert: the Lady of the Green Kirtle is defeated, and
I hope you've read the books if you're watching.
What?
And so you have that, and you have them coming back into Narnia. You have. Of course, you also have
even within that scene with Lady Green Kirtle, you've got rescuing Rilian,
the world
escaping Underland,
escaping Underland coming to an end. You have
Caspian being
reunited with Rilian. You have after Caspian and Rilian are reunited, Caspian is brought back from the dead. Then you also have the bullying conclusion at the very end of Experiment House. You have all these. So this is why I could easily see Caspian's resurrection being thrown out, and even if it's not thrown out, it's be a difficult scene to do.
I mean, if you follow the book, the like after Rilian is freed from the chair, it could easily be another like 45 minutes with all that stuff.
And so I think about just Caspian's resurrection there, and I thought about I like analyzing films, and I watch films, and I look at how films are made, and I listen to the creative minds behind them. And I have to say that would be a challenge, I think, for anyone to do well.
To keep it in, you mean?
Yeah.
To keep it in and do it right.
Yeah, but you're right.
But that's something I would love to see nailed on the head.
A book that's so much about despair, we need to see Caspian rise from the dead. We need to see that there's hope. And there should be an acknowledgement of the fact that, to me, what I see emotionally about at the end is like, look, there's bad things that happen in the world, and they're just bad. And we need to acknowledge that and acknowledge the reality of that. But also have a sense of, at the same time, we can have a sense of hope at the end. And the only way to do that, I think, is to have Caspian die, but say, but it's okay. There's hope beyond death. Acknowledge the darkness, but offer joy at the same time.
And it's such a key scene because they
don't
mourn
deny
him
the darkness.
Yeah.
Even as he's about to resurrect him, they mourn him.
Yes. They actually, even though Aslan's about to bring him back to life, they still take that moment to mourn him. So we're not denying the darkness that's in our world, but we're saying it's there and then offering hope.
And I think that actually the one thing that could actually make a really good case just from because like you said, like having these multiple endings thing, like it is super tricky. But the one thing that really makes a strong case from like a cinematic standpoint to keep it in, I think, is that if the plan is to, like they said, their plan is to make 3 movies. So which we assume that means.
Well, it said a trilogy. Joe Johnston talked about this being the start of a new Narnia trilogy,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of debate about did he literally mean 3 movies, and what did he mean by that?
Yeah,
if he did.
but we assume like, okay, they're not planning on this to be a one-off. And they're planning to have an ending. Like the logical ending is the last battle. So
of the logical ending of the series.
the logical of the series is the last battle. And so, the one thing that is kind of introduced in Silverchair, or that's kind of emphasized, is the, like the first time you really hear about it is in Dawn Treader, like Aslan's country. Like this is a place you can go. And then in Silverchair, Caspian goes to Aslan's chair. After he dies, and then he is resurrected, and so you know that he's living with Aslan in Aslan's country now. He's not in Narnia anymore, but he's in Aslan's country.
Right.
And then in the last battle, this is a huge thing because this is where everyone goes. So I think being able to establish this concept of there is
afterlife
of the afterlife, there is more beyond just Narnia.
and we can even tease it a little bit, so we just see a little bit of it, but we know there's a lot more
But
to this
just like
afterlife we're not
so,
seeing
this
now.
isn't like this foreign concept to people. Like
Yeah.
you get to the last battle, it's like dun dun dun, and then like what is this? Like you just pulled
wait,
this
that's
out
there?
of nowhere. Like this whole concept of like there's
all the characters we know are still alive there.
Yeah.
Like, we could actually tease it a bit.
like
in
because
Silverchair.
it already has been teased a little bit. Like Reepicheep goes to Aslan's country, but we don't see what happens to him afterwards.
Right.
Like we just know that's where he went, but like.
I never even thought about that in the books. The fact that we certainly get a sense of Reepicheep just disappears into Aslan's country. We don't see anymore. Then in Silverchair, we get a little more. We actually see Caspian come back from the dead, and we get a little bit of what this idea of reunion and afterlife. And then in Last Battle, of course, that's the final payoff where everyone from the whole series, including Puddleglum, comes back.
So like that to me, that is like
Wow.
the strongest case for like keeping that in, just because like if this is really like if you're trying to make this like a continuation, like all 3 of these are going to kind of tie in together.
I just wish they hadn't botched it in Dawn Treader, in my opinion. But.
Yeah, I mean it could have been better, but it's still saying that it's still going to be really really
She's good.
difficult.
It's true.
It's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Just how that would tie in to all the others. Sometimes you
I
forget.
have a theory
reading the
about what
books.
this like why they would make 3 instead of just 2 as
That should be
well.
another podcast.
That should be another podcast.
Yeah,
And I also want to
we
say,
have done a podcast on that.
and I have to say something here in terms of things. I think what would I really like them to just get? Oh man, like they just nailed it in the Silverchair. And I've never seen this, or rather heard this done in any Narnia adaptation, and that's the voice of Aslan.
Like really done right, you mean?
Really done well. I really liked Liam Neeson. I liked Liam Neeson.
Liked
I think I did. I liked him. I think he did the best job I have heard thus far. I have not listened to the Patrick Stewart Last Battle.
Patrick Stewart
adaptation.
reads The Last Battle
Yeah,
on
he
CD,
reads
yeah.
he reads the Last Battle. I haven't listened to that one.
It's just
but-
what you would sound like. It's
yeah.
Picard as Aslan.
Yeah.
It's-
So but I've heard other
Engage.
other I've heard other voices, and you have some like you had the BBC one that was falling asleep, and you had the David Suchet that in the Family Radio series. He ranged from like, oh wow, that sounds like Aslan to I don't know what that would be, but it sounds really weird. But Liam Neeson did a good job, but I listened and I thought it just doesn't sound like Aslan.
Oh, I think it's. I would like a younger sounding Aslan. I actually thought that Brian Cox would have been an interesting choice because I think he has maybe that's what I'm talking about, a wildness in his voice. When I hear they've gone and again, we don't really have we're just putting Aslan in there because he's in the book. We don't really have a great reason of why. I think you're gonna do well. I guess he's a lion and he's kind of an old mentor kind of character, so we give him kind of a grandfatherly wisdom kind of voice.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go with Qui-Gon Jinn. But I think it would be more appropriate what's the defining thing we know about Aslan? He's not a tame lion. When I hear Liam Neeson's voice, I don't hear that. I picture kind of an old guy in his armchair full of wisdom kind of voice. I think Aslan should feel unpredictable and not tame and wild. So I think sort of a younger sounding, maybe even kind of a gravelly kind of a little bit kind of Aslan who might do anything would be more appropriate. Again, I liked Liam Neeson too. I thought it was not it was adequate, but it wasn't very inspired.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when they were doing the character of Aslan, like in the movies, like like, okay, this is this big character. Like he's very, he needs to be reverent almost,
Yeah.
So then you forget that like in the books, there's like some moments where Aslan is almost like silly and very unpredictable and just does things where everyone's just kind of like, what, but that adds to the thing of like, he's not a tame line.
How many things, when he meets Jill, how many things does he say where you're like, what?
Yeah.
Swallowed up girls and boys, women and men, emperors and cities. And...
Yeah. So I understand like in the movie, they're like, we're trying to make him this very awe-inspiring character, but then you do lose that sense of unpredictability. You
actually lose it. Like I think if he feels too predictable, you lose that sense of awe because you feel like you know exactly what he's going to do. Like when are there any lines?
That's a good point. You feel like you know exactly what he's going to do at every point.
Like,
are there any lines in the movies that really caught you off? Like would catch someone who hasn't read the book even caught them off guard?
Yeah, no.
Like, there's nothing to compare to that line. I've swallowed up girls and boys, cities and emperors, and all that. There's nothing to even compare that to.
And it's like, movies. And can you even picture in your head the Aslan from the movies doing something like playing with Trumpkin? Like, can you even picture that in your head?
It's like, no, Aslan
you
does
can't.
Unexpected things in the book. That's one of the defining things he does. Yeah, I completely agree. And again, just comes back to Aslan as one of the main things they have to emphasize about the Silver Chair.
Yeah, so that's something I think it'd be awesome if they could just. I don't have someone in mind really. I mean, I have a couple. Like we've talked about Brian Cox, you and I have, and he was rumored to be an original choice.
He was. I heard that he was. Well,
cast. He was straight up cast.
I think
but
he was
then
cast.
There was something happened, and later down the line when they were actually getting ready to record it, but he was the first choice.
Yeah, and I think that would have been. I would have liked to have gone that direction.
Yeah.
So it's all about Aslan.
That's true.
So the only other thing I guess that's on my list as far as hopes for the movie is it kind of ties into I feel like that the movie shouldn't be overly epic. Like keep the stakes low, keep it about the characters and their struggle, not about starting to save all Narnia. And they really make it primarily about Jill and her just a personal journey, not all of the space-time continuum being on the line. Specifically when they actually get into Narnia, Although I thought it was cool what they did with the picture in the bedroom, one of the cool things about the Dawn Treader movie was the picture in the bedroom scene. I don't want them to do anything that feels like it's on that scale with this movie, with the way they get through the door. Like with Prince Caspian, in the book, all it is boom, they felt this frightful pulling and they were in Narnia. And in the movie, it was this epic, the train is like train station is like dematerializing or whatever. And I would like them to keep it really, really simple and just focus on the fact that wow, they were in this dreary schoolyard, and then all of a sudden, paradise. Just focus on the emotions of that rather than just special effects extravaganza. And so, I think
a very gentle transition.
Yeah, I think that applies to the overarching tone of the movie. Make it a personal, character-driven movie, not the whole world's on the line. We got to save it. Hurry up.
And
trailer scenes.
I feel like one thing that's like in that favor is I feel like these big epic fantasy movies have kind of fallen out of favor. Like back when they were making Prince Caspian and Dawn Treader and Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe, like that was very much like in vogue.
Yeah.
Like everyone was making these giant epic flicks. Like it was all about the fantasy. And I feel like these days it has kind of backed away from that because people have realized, yeah, we can do all the effects, but
Should we?
So I think one thing that it makes me hopeful is like where I see filmmaking in this day and age, like the films that are making the money are not the huge, like in your face, just like epic explosion. Like those aren't the movies that are making money. Like there's like superhero stuff, but a lot of stuff is still being people are like.
Well, you look at Netflix, for example, and you're able to appeal to a smaller niche kind of audience, which is what I wish they would do with this more.
It needs to be like people. I think producers are realizing that movies need to be like there has to be substance to it, and so that's what actually makes me hopeful for Silver Chair. It's like. Just the way the industry is trending, it's like it is trending more towards like let's make this like about the people and not about like
characters we want to come back to and watch more of.
I hope that's true. I don't know. You might be more familiar with some of those trends than I am. I think that part of it is hopefully they realize, they're going to come out with Infinity War Part 1. They can make Infinity War Part 2, and it could get a 10% Rotten Tomato rating. it
Still
will
make money.
make
Yeah.
millions
There's
and millions and millions of dollars.
Definitely exceptions to the rule.
Well, here's my point. Here's what I'm getting, and I agree with you, because what I think hopefully they realize that this film, like, that's not just going with certain formulas isn't just gonna generate the pull.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to go with those characters, and I think that they do realize that hey, this isn't a huge Marvel movie. We're gonna have to do that. That's what's gonna actually benefit us in the box office, is to make it character centric. I think they realize that. I think they know that, hey, this isn't a big Marvel movie. And hopefully they realize there are those films out there like Transformers that can do that, and hopefully they realize that that's not
not us.
That's not gonna do that.
Yeah.
The day I thought we would mention Narnia and Transformers in the same
gosh.
sentence, heaven help us.
Well, that's what we're here to do right now, aren't we? We're here to get it out of our system right now, just in case they do Narnia and zombies and then Narnia and Transformers.
Narnia, the Michael Bay version. Can you imagine?
I'm trying not to. Macy, I see, with your point of looking at trends, I see two ways we can go: one bad and one good. And like the good part of what I think you're kind of alluding to is this trend towards again, most of the stuff is sort of niche audience stuff, like why am I blanking? Even some of the, like Daredevil, even some of the smaller kind of Marvel shows, and things like Breaking Bad, and even maybe kind of the Lemony Snicket, where it's that came back on Netflix, where there is this. Those aren't great examples, but there's this trend towards smaller, lower budget things that we can. Those are the cool things about the internet. Even if you have this niche audience that's spread out, you can still find them now. So there's so I see that one trend of it lower budget stuff, so we can't afford all the special effects, but we can create characters.
Yeah.
Sherlock's another example that you can come back. You want to keep seeing these characters. And the other trend I see is cinematic universes. And I know Marvel's the only really successful one. Well, I guess Star Wars is now officially kind of a cinematic universe. But so I can see them, and that's where the trilogy comment kind of tickled me a little bit the wrong way, because is that what they're trying to do? Is, we need to make this Narnia universe and make this big epic thing, and we can have the horse and his boy, a Narnia story. And so I can that was movie Aristotle's. I got to credit that one to him, or blame that one on him, not me. So yeah, I see two ways they can go with this, and I wish they would go the lower, not necessarily Netflix, but smaller budget. Yeah, maybe Aslan's not gonna, the effects aren't gonna look as great, and maybe they can't afford to do a big battle scene. Wouldn't that be horrible?
So terrible.
Yeah, it would be terrible, wouldn't it? Like, maybe they can't. Maybe Narnia won't look as slick and polished as maybe the other movies, but if I think I'd be fine with that if they just make it really, really down to earth, down to Narnia, and character focused, and market it to a niche audience rather than everyone and their dog.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of sad that there's this discussion of, well, if they have too much money,
that's not necessarily a good thing.
They're not going to focus. They're just not going to focus on the characters. If they have less money, they'll have to focus on the characters. It's kind of sad that we discuss this as like an either or.
But that's
the way it kind of is. Sometimes.
Like, my feeling is that with money comes people.
With great power comes great responsibility.
That's what I thought you were gonna say.
With money comes people who have stakes, and then there's too many cooks in the kitchen.
You have to play it safe.
Too many thumbs in the pie. Like, there's just
you have to go with what works.
When trying to please everyone, you please no one. And I really do feel like
please everyone moderately.
But you really don't like, no one really is super happy.
Well, I say that's what the Marvel movies, I think, in general, are like, everyone's pleased, moderately. As far as like, a lot of people, that was an entertaining blockbuster, really enjoyed it. To me, that's loved it moderately. I think having a really emotional,
but
powerful
is it special?
experience.
Is there anything about it that's special?
Yeah.
And I just don't think there's anything about the Marvel movies.
They're good. They're well made.
Yeah.
Enjoy them.
I enjoy them.
I go see them on opening day.
Yeah. But they're not special, and that's why
Narnia deserves better than that.
I'm convinced the Lord of the Rings would not be made today the way it was, because you would think, okay, here's this guy, Peter Jackson. What's he directed? Heavenly Creatures and Brain Dead and other zombie movies. Cool. What should we do? Let's give him $300 million all at once. And let's have him make 3 films all at once. So, like, if the first one is horrible, the other 2 will fail also.
Uh-huh.
And we'll have him make the movies.
It wouldn't happen today.
It wouldn't.
Should we give him a lot of oversight? No.
Yeah. You know why? You know why that happened? Is because Peter Jackson, it wasn't, there's a successful fantasy movie, I should make another one. It was, he made it because he read the books and really got an idea, really had a vision. This could be a cool movie. And he actually had to convince studios to do it. So the initial spark was creative. with the Narnia movies, the initial spark was, oh, Lord of the Rings was successful. We got to make another fantasy movie.
Like, what's out there?
What's going to make us a lot of money?
Which, again,
it's what's going to have good return on
safe,
investment.
Easy.
Yeah, safe and easy. Lord of the Rings definitely fits that.
And that doesn't automatically make them bad movies. I overall like the first two. I don't think they're amazing, but overall enjoyed them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Narnia deserves
it just
better
makes it
than
more.
what we
It
got.
just makes it more complicated when
Yeah.
when you're working with big production companies with big producers who just with people's opinion has lots of sway. It makes it really hard for a few people's creative vision to come to fruition in exactly the way they want it to.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think with like these small budget movies, it's like, well, there's not so many people who get to have a say, so maybe one or two persons like creative vision really gets to play out the way they intended.
And that's maybe what they're doing now.
It's like what Brad Johnston said about
Joe Johnston.
Joe Johnston,
Yeah.
sorry. Joe Johnston said when he was talking about the his film that he liked that he got to make. He said, "Well, no one was really looking over my shoulder."
Yeah, and
he's like, there was a low budget film, so people didn't really care how it did, and so I got to be creative
so much
with
money
it.
at stake.
And it's I think I kind of wish I'd asked him more about this, but what the process of the collaboration that David McGee, the Silverchair screenwriter, described in the one that gets posted. It wasn't the previous podcast; it was the one before that when we talked to him. But it was he talked about it was really him and Gresham and a small group of people, and now Joe Johnston collaborating on it, and then deciding, okay, we like the script, we feel good about it. Now let's go sell it to someone and see if we can get them to give us money for it, as opposed to buying the rights to it and inviting all of Hollywood to say, come on, to fund it and say, okay, do this, all these ideas. The script was already in place and they liked it, and it didn't have to go through the same cooks in the kitchen kind of process. So I think from that perspective, the Silverchair is probably starting off on a much better foot than the other movies. Yeah,
because I think that's the one thing, like when you see with like Andrew Adamson's, like his movies, like I feel like he had an idea of what he wanted to do, so he was able to just kind of. Yeah, he had people saying like, "Oh, don't do this," but like for the most part, he had his creative vision, and
he was very personally invested.
Yes,
in it,
very personally invested, and maybe that creative vision did not match what the general fan population felt. But at the end of the day,
or at least the really nerdy part of the fan population.
But at the end of the day, it was one person's version of Narnia.
I think largely was.
Yeah, which is it's however much you did or did not like that, it's better than this is one person's sort of idea plus like 15 producers.
Don Shredder, I would say, is what that was.
Yeah.
I think that was an assembly line, big,
it's like
executives sitting around a table making all the decisions.
It's like a committee saying, let's design a horse and you get a camel.
Yes. Okay. No, I don't get that. What?
You never heard that?
Afraid I haven't.
Camel is a horse that's designed by a committee.
Okay.
I hope no camels are offended.
It's like the general idea, but it's just sort of not quite right.
Right. When you have so many people with all their ideas, it's with Don Shredder was so many cooks in the kitchen. Maybe he's saying make a horse and they got a camel. Is that where we're going with this? Sure, I'll go with that.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm the podcasting prince.
And no camels were harmed or hopefully not offended in the recording of this podcast.
Especially not offended, because then they'll Twitter bomb us and it'll tank us.
We're doomed.
It's a different world than it was when Don Shredder came out.
Yeah.
Twitter was just coming out, I think, at that
Not
point,
only just Don Shredder, just when Lion Witch in the Wardrobe came out.
Well, YouTube came out the same year, I think. Didn't YouTube come out in 2005?
We just dated ourselves.
No, it was before that. It must have been. It was a little before. It must have been.
It was in its infancy.
Close.
It was in its infancy.
Gosh.
No one was using it.
iPhones weren't out yet.
Wow. Okay.
That seems like a lifetime ago.
2007.
So that's what this is. Yeah, we are obviously battle-scarred veterans of past Narnia movies, and looking forward, there's
emphasis on scarred more than battled.
No battles in Narnia. Scars, maybe.
More like traumatized.
But see, I don't want to make it sound like, the other three movies were terrible. There were certain things about them that have left some open wounds. But I overall liked the first two. Thought the third was a disaster. But I think there are definitely reasons to be hopeful about the fourth.
Yeah.
Well, especially because you've got this fresh take on it, and it feels to us like I think a
We
lot of
haven't
us
messed up yet.
Well, here's the other thing, and consider this: a lot of us, because we're NarniaWebbers, our job is to worry and oh my goodness, you
and put a bold face on it.
and say all these like, oh my goodness, what does that mean? You said and instead of or. What does that mean?
It's
Explain.
the
But
overanalyzation
it is.
committee.
It's the analysis paralysis.
Let's
But
keep doing it.
at the same time, here's the thing. Sometimes I think, and I was thinking about this now, we think, oh my goodness, wait, a fresh trilogy? A reboot? Oh my goodness, what does that mean? What disasters does this entail? But then we think, well, we're going to actually, this is going to be a continuation of what was established in Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, and in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader movies. It'll continue with what you saw there. And we're going, oh my goodness, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
So either way, so, if they'd said that, would we not be a little more worried?
Whatever they're going to say, we would be.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think no matter who is in charge or what they're doing, what they say, we're gonna
pick it apart.
We're gonna freak out about it.
Yeah.
So don't take it personally, guys.
Yeah. The one part, the most fun part of the whole Dawn Treader experience was this right here, guys. Something to overanalyze. I know.
That's
Pretty
nice.
much.
Nice to hear.
Yeah.
But
So-
I don't think it can be delayed any longer, GymFan. Are we ready to stump a NarniaWebber here, or is there anything else?
I think we are.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
Let's stump a NarniaWebber. So I know it's been about, how long has it been since mid 2005? I guess it's been 12 years. Okay.
Yeah,
Quick
long-
math. Okay.
Long time.
So the second trailer for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I think, came out in about October 2005.
Take them. There is a prophecy that 2 sons of Adam and 2 daughters of Eve will appear to defeat the White Witch.
And in that trailer, there was a line from Aslan that ended up getting cut from the movie. And I can help you out a little more. That freaked us out. Speaking of overanalyzing, it really freaked us out. Aslan says it to Peter. It's in the scene where Peter first meets Aslan.
Aslan, we need your help.
And he tells Peter something, gives him a line that was ultimately cut from the movie. And it really freaked us out when we heard it in the trailer.
Oh,
Do you remember what that line was?
I remember this thing, but I'm trying to remember what it was. It was something about.
That's your question.
Yeah. I know once you say it, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember. But I just remember people were like they really, really got their knickers in a twist about it, and then it ended up being like nothing.
Well, because that they
cut it.
Because they cut the line out. I can give you a little more of a hint if you want, and kind of continue that thought.
I can't think of it. I guess
the
like
first 2 words.
No, well, just like when we were talking about, although they did
something to do with it was like it's like your destiny or something.
Along those lines.
Something had to do with like,
Kinda
is this
close.
like your destiny or like?
So although they could say, oh, our concerns were, for nothing because they cut it out. Not really, because it ultimately reflected a larger issue, which is really making the kids the heroes, not Aslan. So that fear, I think, did turn out to be a legitimate concern. So Aslan says something to Peter in the trailer that's like, wait a minute, like is that really what? It felt like it was making Peter the hero.
Yeah. I'm remembering this, but I can't remember the words.
Pretty close, though. We're talking about 12 years here. How long has it been since we watched the trailer?
Life has changed.
But the line is actually...
I know, but understand. The future of Narnia rests on your courage.
The future of Narnia rests on your courage.
Oh yeah,
That's pretty good impression.
I remember because it was something like that, and people were like, "Wait, what?"
And we're like, well, the future of Narnia, really, Aslan and the prophecy, that's really what it's all about. And now there's resting on Peter's courage, and we made such a fuss about it. Although they did cut the line, it was ultimately reflective of one of the bigger issues with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that hopefully they'll correct with the Silver Chair, which is that it should ultimately be about Aslan. And so many movies, it is all about don't run from who you are and self-discovery and all that. And
family is a good thing, not a bad thing.
It's all about family. And so,
and the bad thing is,
trailer
it's
voice.
like not even like an interesting line. It's just like generic.
Family, because that's G-rated and safe, and who doesn't like family? But the point is that I think that what Narnia offers is hope that's beyond us. It's not just, we're going to discover who we are. And I think the more I see of the world, the more it is the harder it is to be optimistic about, like if we can just discover who we are and tap into our inner goodness. And Narnia offers hope that's actually a more, I think, fulfilling fantasy, because it's rooted in hope that's beyond us. And so that's one of the big things I hope they retain with the silver chair.
Yeah.
Roll credits. No.
You wrapped it up nicely.
This has been amazing.
Good to find out you guys are real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not holograms. Okay.
We're not fake. We're not psychopaths on the internet.
Well,
That we know of.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't want to end on that note, but okay.
But we're going to continue, of course, following the Silver Chair production every step of the way, analyzing all the latest news and even the stuff that's not news, but we're going to analyze it anyway to death.
That's what we
every
do.
little detail we get.
Who knows? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe a Comic-Con sometime in
We'll
person.
see.
Who
We'll see.
knows?
That was
That'd be
the
If
awesome.
there's someone who
That'd be
wants
awesome.
to sponsor us, we'll be setting up a PayPal account later.
It's
Well,
a GoFundMe.
well, you can donate to NarniaWeb, though, so that's already open now, but I don't usually plug that, but okay. Anyway, so either way, looking forward to having you guys, everyone, along for the ride, and good or bad, we'll have a fun time,
Yeah.
I hope, anticipating it and analyzing it.
Well, guys, this was awesome. GymFan and Glumpuddle, thank you very much. And to all of NarniaWeb,
Further up and further in. Did you miss that?
No, I got it halfway after. I was
sorry.
like, there it is. I know it. I was like,
And
what is it going to say?
Halfway through, I thought, they've never seen us. They don't know I'm really in your Glumpuddle and your GymFan.
Oh,
Unless they just put it
I'll have
together.
a graphic on the screen.
Okay,
so it'll be
because
okay.
I thought we didn't introduce ourselves at all.
We didn't
That's
introduce
okay.
ourselves.